Let's take a look at the filter section at the bottom left. Now here's that piano sample I set up a couple of videos ago with the nice seesaw looping. Now I brought in another sample here and I'm going to solo it, or I could just turn off the first one, and this is what it sounds like. Now when I loaded it in, the gain offset was by default set to 3.9 in order for it to be at 0 dBFS, dB full scale. And I could bring it down here, but I chose to bring it down here at the output so that it'll blend nicely with the piano the way I want. Now the root key was at G2, but I wanted it to be a couple of octaves higher, so I brought it down to G0. But then I'm going to bring it up to C so that it'll blend with this when I play them both together. So let me turn that on. And this has got the looping, the seesaw looping as well. So those two blend together. I'll solo this one, and I want to look at the filter section. So we turn it on or off here, and we have the usual suspects for the types of filter. And the idea is that we set a cutoff frequency, and it'll filter around the cutoff frequency based on what we have selected. Now, this is a low-pass filter, meaning it lets everything below this cutoff frequency pass through. So as I dial this low, we're only getting the low end of the sample because it's only letting, in this case, what's below 178 pass through. And it'll attenuate based on these settings here, either 12 dB per octave, which is less steep, or 24 dB an octave, which is a steeper cutoff. And then we can boost right around the cutoff point with this resonance control. And you'll see they have different characteristics, or it has different characteristics based on the filter slope. And then we can drive the whole filter section, get a nice saturated output. We also have a high pass filter where it'll let everything above this pass through for a thinner, higher nasal sound. It can almost oscillate if you have too much resonance right around the high cutoff point. You hear it's not as sharp at 12 dB per octave. We have a bandpass filter where it attenuates above and below, so we get a narrow range sounding, which is nice for a thin type of sound, something like that, if that's what you want. And then we have a notch, or rather a peak filter, where it'll boost right around the cutoff point. And these all sound nice as you hear as I'm sweeping the cutoff as you modulate or turn the parameter. It has an interesting quality to it, and that's where the modulation comes in, which we'll get into in another video. But for now, let's just set this to low pass. I want to get a nice kind of darker sound so it'll blend with the piano chords. I don't need that much. Now, we also have filter groups, which are really interesting. You'll recall that we can have up to 8 layers here. If you assign the filter to the same group in multiple layers, then changes in one will apply to the other. Now, for example, I've just assigned that to filter group 1. If I go to the piano and turn the filter on and put this to filter group 1, it's going to snap to those parameters. Now, it doesn't necessarily work on the piano, but just to show you how it works, now if I dial up the resonance here and go to this second layer, you'll see the resonance has been boosted as well. So what I'm going to do is take this out of that filter group, the piano sample, and turn off the filter. And then go back here, and I'll bring this back down. We'll continue with more in the next video.